it's really interesting, how the dynamics of family. Here's one real quick. Kim, your mom, was she involved in the businesses?
My dad would tell you that it's because of my mom that he left the company that he worked for and started his own business. So my mom was actually the majority shareholder to qualify to be a woman-owned business. And she did a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but she was never really truly in the office. But my dad would tell you straight up, she was always the reason that he went into business, because she could manage a budget down to a penny and that kind of thing. But she wasn't.
And Raj, you had mentioned that your mom was in a different space or whatnot. My mom, and the reason I brought it up is because I think about my mom as that CEO, the chief emotional officer. And I remember, many, many conversations with mom where you sat there and said, I just don't know if I can deal with him anymore. And she, well, your father this or your father that. And she would, kind of smooth out the edges many, many times. Through your family, Kim, did you have that experience?
Well, that was definitely my mom. She was a social worker by training, and definitely the chief emotional officer. And I would put her definitively in charge of negotiations and compromise. She'd work the crowd over here and work the crowd over there, and feather the things going on. I also give her credit, and to your point about even with Dad being retired, defaulting back to that workspace conversation, it did really become apparent that there were times when we had this fifth child at the dinner table. And little trivia detail, I grew up, my mom was very European in her approach. So she shopped every day, cooked the dinner, and we did not eat dinner as a family till everyone was home, which meant that on an average night, we ate somewhere between like 7:45 and 8:30. And on a bad night, we ate dinner at like 9:15. And she would feed us a snack at 4 when we were little, but that was pretty much my experience straight through. And I just remember hitting an age where she instituted, we are not talking about work. We're done. If there was something that sort of was in the conversation as everybody was getting settled, fine. But then that was off the table, and she had all sorts of tricks she'd pull out of her pockets to keep the conversation going and get us talking about things other than work. And I think as I've reflected getting ready for today, that's something I hadn't really thought about before that is really cool, that she really pushed us to have outside interests and have a different perspective on the world. And I don't think it was always easy, because I think she spent a lot of time lassoing my dad and pulling him back to the ground rules.
That's great. Yeah, and that's very insightful on her part. Probably a lot of that training that she had beforehand to know that there's more than one aspect to the lives that we live.